Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're back on the updates 1.83 dev server, having a look at the Type M 1943. This is one of the new premiums that's coming to the German fleet tech tree in update 1.83. Now it's going to be an OBT, and as you can see it's at rank 2 battle rating 3.3. This means that it's going to be good at researching rank 1, 2, and 3 of the tech trees, so pretty much everything apart from right now the KMS Emden. So overall, from this machine, what you see is a ship which is going to face quite a lot of destroyers, but at the same time, if it gets down-tiered, it should be in a pretty good place. It has the characteristics of what I like to class as a mini-destroyer. Basically, it has the guns, which are very much destroyer-like, but not as good as them. It has a smaller capacity for them. It has lower speed than it, and it has a decent amount of crew. It's basically a baby destroyer, or a destroyer wannabe. So let's go through the guns. First of all, it has two 105mm SKC-32s. These can be found on the front and the back of the ship here and here. Then you have two 37mm flak Lafettes. So you have one here and then one sat here. And then you have a quad 20mm Verlinge flak, which is sat right here, and then you have the torpedo tubes staring this way and that way, so at angles. So if you want to shoot them straight, you're going to have to angle your ship by maybe 20 degrees or so nothing crazy, but you still have to be able to do it. So overall, decent amount of guns, decent amount of AA. You basically just have to count on the 20mm doing their job, and I'm sure they will. Also, there's some extra 20mm at the top here, some dual 20mm flak 38. So when we talk about kitting it out against machines which are from the air, you know, two 37s, a quad 20, and two dual 20s, you know what, we're talking about a system which is pretty good. The versatility of this machine is okay. The problem with it is, for me, it's quite large, and the silhouette is quite big, and this means that attacking it with another destroyer is going to be a lot easier to do, and because it doesn't have the firepower of certain destroyers that it's going to face, this is a problem. So, what am I talking about here? So the Type M series has two 105mm as its main guns. So against already the Type 1924 at 3.7, it has 328mm guns. The Type 1939 has four 105, so literally double what this has. The Cannon Boot at 3.7 has two 120 duals, so once again double at least what this has. And then the Type 1934, which it won't really ever face, it has five 128. So against all of these machines, which a lot of people are going to be playing, because a lot of people want to play the destroyers instead of these machines here, the motor torpedo boats and the fast attack craft of the Type 143, we are going to be sat in a scenario where the Menenschutzboot, I'm guessing is how you say it, is just a slightly worse destroyer, and it's going to face a lot of destroyers. So with something like the Elko, as I said before, because it's a 3.0, it's not really going to get up-tiered too much into destroyers, and when it does get up-tiered into them, at least it has a lot of torpedoes to be able to deal with them. The Type M is much more close to where the BR of destroyers are. So this just means that for it, it's going to get up-tiered more and down-tiered less, especially when we compare it to other nations and where their BR set. Does that mean that this thing is useless? No, of course not. At its BR, or when it is down-tiered, it is going to be a good machine. The issue it's going to have is the same issue that a lot of these machines have. Once they get close to destroyers, they are just worse destroyers, so the destroyers are going to annihilate them. On top of everything, the secondary weapons, it has 4 WBG depth charges. Just remember that it also has a bomb mortar on it, and that because it's premium, you get all of the modifications for free, so you don't have to worry about getting any of the modifications or researching them. You can uninstall them if you feel like it, but generally that's a bad idea. So what do you get on the 105? You start off with some HE, but you get access to some APHE, which is 213mm, so this should go through everything. You've just got to hope that the shell itself gets ignited, or not ignited, but it actually explodes and shatters if it actually pens something, because the problem I've been seeing with ships is the fact that with certain shells they just go straight through. So sometimes in some scenarios HE is better, sometimes in some other scenarios APHE is better. This is not like ground forces where 90% of the time there is a certain shell which is better. In this set, it's actually a good idea to take both. Then, you have the 37mm, you can either take HE or APT. For me personally, I like taking APT because I like them being useful against ships as well as aircraft, but I understand if some people want to take HE for that extra oomph against some aircraft. Then you have the 20mm, just mainly APT with a bit of hef, and then same with the other 20mm. You can't change the belts on them, which is a little bit annoying, but it's not the end of the world. It just is how it is, really. Now, if we have a look at the customization, once again, no camouflage. You only get this basic camouflage, so I'm really hoping that we get some really cool user-made skins for these ships. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit boring. I like the idea of researching camos. I like the idea of being able to use the camos and as a thing to try and go towards, I think is the best way of putting it, and unfortunately a lot of these new ships don't have that. So there's the Elko there, it's already pretty much dead. I'm supposed to put a big fat APHE hole in it just to make sure it knows that we're here. How's your father, how's your duty? And the Elko is a perfect example of what I was talking about. Oh, by the way, aircraft is already destroyed. So you know what I said with the 105 where you can shoot and it'll just go straight through? Well, that was basically just happening there with the 105. And one of the big issues that I've seen with this compared to other vehicles is the speed of it. So a lot of machines, they may have slightly less guns, but they get away with it because they have the speed. This does not. It's at 30 kilometers an hour right now, which is about half the speed of the majority of ships that you will see at this BR, and some of them will obviously be around this speed, but the majority, which I would deem as meta, are a lot faster than it. So basically what you have here is a small, slow destroyer. Now what you don't want is a large silhouette, which destroyers can pick on. And because of the silhouette of this machine, because it's quite large and because it's quite slow, it's going to be really easy for those destroyers to range you and absolutely annihilate you. And that is something that I'm worried about for this machine going forward. Does it have the killing power compared to a lot of other machines to kill destroyers? Of course it does. And it has this in the form of torpedoes, as we can see here, if we just turn around, and it has it in the form of the 105s. The 105s can detonate ammunition, it can do a lot of damage to destroyers, and it can also just overall just do a lot in the forms of torpedoes and stuff like that. But you can attack, you can beat a destroyer. The problem is, does the destroyer have a much larger advantage over you compared to you over it? And the answer is yes. Unfortunately, it really does. So any range that you're going to be firing at, the destroyer is going to be able to shoot miles more shots at you than you are at him. And this is the biggest issue with a machine like this. You sit in a scenario where yes, you can pepper the destroyer with the shells that you have, but the problem is the shells that you have compared to what the destroyer has is negligible. I feel like a machine like this would be a lot more useful in arcade, just because it's a bit more faster. You know, the arcade damage models and ship models are a little bit more forgiving, and in realistic this thing is just incredibly slow and a little bit bullish. I don't know whether this is how it's supposed to be or not, but it just feels very slow. We are maxing out at 30 kilometers an hour. The shots of the 37s are doing a decent amount of damage. The APHE is doing an okay job, but the main issue with it is that it's just going straight through, so let's just switch to HE just to see if that helps our cause a little bit. Yeah, it's doing a little bit more now that we're hitting something which doesn't have a lot of armor on it. But the main thing is, it's just so slow through the water. And when you look at even the light cruiser, like I was testing out the British light cruiser earlier, that was going at 60 kilometers an hour, 60 to 65 to 70. This one is going at 30 flat out. There is no way I can make this thing faster unless I dump everything over the side. So it's just really surprising to me that we have a machine which is this slow. On top of this, we do have the launchers. So let's just see what the launchers look like. There we go. There's 2 on the left-hand side, and then we can do 2 on the right. There we go. 2 on the right. This just shows how slow we're going. We are getting hurt by our own depth charges. This hasn't happened with any other vehicle so far. Just to put that into perspective. Also, it seems like the torpedo either didn't do a lot, or it hasn't hit yet, or it just hit. It may have just hit. But yeah, the way I see this vehicle is it is just a small destroyer. And what you don't want as a small destroyer is to face a large destroyer. So when you're at a BR, which will make you face a lot of destroyers, especially early on, once people are going through the tree, then you're just going to be in a situation where you're going to get twatted. And you don't have these guns which have a lot of fire rate on them, so against smaller machines, you may have a few issues at killing them as well. It's an okay package, as I said, at its BR or lower, but the issue is you want a machine that can be up-tiered at a decent click, because you know that the meta is going to be the up-tier. The meta for ships for this bracket is going to be destroyers. It's going to be the up-tier. So you need something to be able to deal with them, and for me, this is not the ship. For me, something like an Elco is much better because it's a lot smaller, a lot harder to hit, has more torpedoes, has more areas where it is able to fight mano-a-mano with the destroyer. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.